So before we go to the coffee in the corner, we'll give you a little family business update on the budget. So I've asked David Dreyer to come. He is the chair of our finance team, the lay leader of our finance team, and I thought we would follow up on what we talked about last week. And you remember I mentioned that this is the season when we work through our budget for the coming year as a church family. And we have gone to all the different ministries in the church, and we have asked them for their projected income and expense that helps them live into their vision. We've compiled that by the finance team, and we've come to the church family. We had videos for 5 weeks from lay leaders. We've had pledge cards and so forth in the bulletin, and we've come to the place now where the leadership council, the umbrella board of the church, needs to make a decision about the budget for next year. The budget is what enables the vision for the coming year. And so, David, thank you for being here. Welcome. And tell us, where are we? Give us an update on our pledging.
All right. So right now, just to let you know, we were about 170 pledges against a goal of about 200. 200 is where we were where we got to this year. And then as far as we're still about $350,000 off the goal of 1.25 million. So that's, when you look at that, it's about 20% of the overall budget of 5.8 million. Now, I'll talk in a few minutes about some of the other income opportunities we have, but right now we're pushing and we're close. We're getting close. So I encourage the pledging. Thank you.
Yeah, so a pledge, again, is a statement of intent of what you're going to give to the church in the coming year. It's not a mortgage that you sign tied to your bank account. It's something that you desire, and we do that for two reasons. One is that it helps us become more generous. Studies show that when you plan your giving, you become a more generous person, and that's something I want to do in my life. But it is also the most reliable figure we have to plan the budget. Really only two ways we look at things. One is, what have we received in the current year? And then what is pledged? That gives us an indicator. And if we go simply off of what we've received, that's difficult to judge going forward in a volatile season that we're in. So what does this leave us? So next slide, please. It leaves us with a gap. We have a gap there between about 13% between what we project will be our income and what our expenses will be. And if you're quick at math, you'll look at the last figure of the total budget and realize that's a pretty significant number, right? 13% at home, and then you project it into a large budget, that's a pretty significant number. And I just want to point in this one place. Last week I mentioned most of our ministries came back and said that they were not asking for an increase in financial support for this year. And if they came back and asked for an increase in financial support, they also came back with a plan to increase their revenue. So most of the ministry, almost all the ministries, are kind of a flat effect on this gap, if you will. Okay? That's what we'd like to point out. So we have some fixed costs. We have some kind of cost centers. We have the ministry missions center, which we just talked about. We have the staffing center. We have the building and so forth. Tell us a little bit about the staffing.
On the staffing, it's a pretty lean group here. If you look at this, about 37% of the staffing is within the church administration and clergy and whatnot. 29% is MSEE and TCA and the preschools, if you will, which is a fairly significant amount. I guess the one thing and what I wanted to point out with this is, and you can see how things can be kind of lean, is that we're at 37% with a ministry team and staffing team, and typically churches of this size and history, if you will, are at about 55%. So, you know, we're trying to do what we can to challenge everybody at everything as we go.
Yeah, thank you. Second area, a third area would be the building, the trustees' budget. So the next slide. The trustees' budget includes the facilities. Remember, we have the whole city block here. We use, in my estimate, about 90% of it on any given month, pretty much through it. We have the Reeves Center, which is a whole nother city block down in the Colonial Town North. And it includes insurance, includes air conditioning, utilities, and so forth. Their budget is $556,000 a year to run this facility and the facility down there. And what I want you to know is that each year, to offset some of that, we receive $350,000 from our Winter Park Methodist Church Foundation. Now, this is a foundation that our church has that was given by, primarily given by a family, the Hastings family, who gave us property in Indiana. We've sold most of that, and that has gone into this foundation that has provided this $350,000. Now, what I want you to hear is that we have never paid for our facilities that we use and enjoy out of our offering fully. At least since I've been here, and I've talked to other leaders, it's been longer than that. We have never out of our offering covered the cost of the facilities that we use as a church. And our foundation is reaching a point when we draw off that $350,000 a year. It's also a place that we draw major projects for the facilities, is reaching a point where the interest will no longer cover that. And so we have to address that. And so this is part of the situation that we're in. I want you to recognize that. Tell us a little bit about income sources.
All right, as I mentioned earlier, there's obviously the offerings, and that is only at about 20% of our overall budget. Then there's three others. There's the ministry charges, which come in a couple of different flavors. One is things like MSEE and the tuition there and TCA. Also, there's fundraising events throughout the year, as many of you are aware of and actually engaged in. That is something. And then there's the foundation, as Pastor David mentioned, which is something that's got an opportunity to control and go through. However, the other one is the Marcy Trust. And the Marcy Trust, as noted here, is not just for this church. It really serves multiple churches. So we have to go out and we have to make our case and see what we can do. But it serves a couple of purposes. One is it helps some of the ministries. It's not there to offset operating costs or anything like that, but it's there to help serve ministries. And also, and Pastor David will talk about this in a minute, but it's also there as an incentive, because this matching grant that we have is a real plus to the giving that the congregation does. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, the Marcy is a real gift to the church, but it is not our trust. It is not something we can count on or something that will float our budget or pay for our staff. It is something that is used to develop new ministries throughout Florida, of which we are blessed to receive a significant amount of that. So I think about the biblical story about the talents. You know, the owner that went away and he gives his servants 10 talents, 5 talents, 2 talents, and so forth. We're a 10-talent church, right? We receive a lot. We have a lot, we enjoy a lot, we give away a lot. Our budget is one of the very largest budgets for Methodist churches in Florida. Our budget is almost half of the conference budget. It's a large budget, and we are blessed. But, you know, we feel called, too much is given, much is expected. We feel called to do a lot with that, to be generous with that in return. But we can only do what the Master gives us to invest. And that's kind of what we want you to hear today. So I just ask that you would prayerfully consider, if you have not, to pledge. There are a number of ways to be a part of this for this coming year. Through some ways is through stock and non-cash gifts as well. They're very, very helpful this time of year and can be a part of your planned giving for the coming year. I also ask that you would please remember that this year is kind of unique because we lose a Sunday offering. Because of Christmas Eve being on Sunday, we lose a week this year. And so we just ask that you be mindful of that for your church family. The good news is there is hope. There is hope. God is moving in this place. We mentioned last week 13% growth in in-person participation and the growth in our small groups. We have new pledges, $183,000 of new pledges this year. So there are new folks coming and participating. Increase in new pledges over almost of $250,000. So we're really thankful for that. And we see God's hand in that. And we know that God is going to sustain the church. One form or another, God is going to sustain the church and bring change to this world. And so let's just say a prayer right now and give thanks to God for all he's given us. God, we just thank you for this time. We thank you for all that you're doing through and in this place. We ask for your guidance and your blessing in the name of Christ. Amen.